The moment Sarah told me she was pregnant, my world lit up like Times Square on New Year's Eve. After 3 grueling years of fertility treatments, countless doctor visits, and more disappointments than I could count, we were finally going to have a baby. My mother Diana was even more excited than I was, already planning the nursery and buying tiny clothes. Everything seemed perfect until I accidentally glimpsed that text message on Sarah's phone while she was in the shower. My stomach dropped as I read the words that would shatter my entire world. Hey folks, before I dive deeper into this nightmare, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories that might just make your problems seem smaller. I am Michael, 32 years old, and until recently I thought I had everything figured out. As the senior manager at my family's construction company, I poured my heart and soul into growing the business my grandfather started. My father, Harold, trusted me with the company's future, recognizing my dedication and vision. While our professional relationship flourished, my personal life had always been complicated, especially regarding my mother, Diana. From childhood, there was an unspoken tension between us. Diana never outright rejected me, but her preference for my older brother, Jason, was painfully obvious. She celebrated his mediocre achievements while downplaying my successes. When I graduated with honors, she focused on how Jason helped me study, though he had barely passed his own classes years before. During family gatherings, she would showcase Jason's charm while assigning me practical tasks in the background. This dynamic created a strange family atmosphere where my father silently compensated by spending more time with me, teaching me about business and life. Despite these challenges, I maintained a respectful relationship with my mother, understanding that people have their favorites even when they should not. I focused instead on building my own path, finding fulfillment in work, and eventually in love. The day I met Sarah changed everything. It happened at our mutual friend Thomas's wedding 5 years ago. She was a bridesmaid, confidently dancing alone while everyone paired up. Her independence caught my eye immediately. Unlike other women who seemed desperate for attention, Sarah appeared complete on her own. When our eyes locked across the dance floor, something clicked. We talked until sunrise, discovering our shared love for old bookstores and spicy food. After 6 months of dating, I proposed during a weekend trip to Maine at a lighthouse overlooking the Atlantic. Our wedding followed a year later, an elegant affair that brought together 2 families with vastly different backgrounds. Sarah, with her marketing expertise and creative mind, complemented my analytical nature perfectly. We settled into a beautiful home in a suburban neighborhood, close enough to both our workplaces but away from my parents' direct influence. The early years of our marriage were everything I had hoped for. We traveled during holidays, hosted dinner parties for friends, and built a life filled with inside jokes and shared dreams. Sarah decorated our home with photographs from our adventures, creating a space that felt uniquely ours. Mornings began with coffee on our porch, planning our days while watching neighborhood kids board school buses. Evenings ended with discussions about books, work challenges, or simply comfortable silence as we unwound from busy days. We were happy, or so I believed. Despite our efforts to establish boundaries, my mother found ways to insert herself into our marriage. She would drop by unannounced, bringing food we did not ask for, or offering unsolicited advice about how Sarah should manage our home. During holiday gatherings, Diana would make subtle comments about how Sarah dressed or prepared meals, creating uncomfortable situations that my father and I struggled to diffuse. Meanwhile, my brother Jason drifted between jobs, never finding his passion or purpose. At 34, he still relied on our parents for financial support, living in their guest house rent-free. Unlike me, who had worked summer jobs since 16, Jason expected assistance without contributing. My father expressed private concerns about Jason's lack of direction, but Diana fiercely defended him, insisting he was finding himself and had special talents that would eventually emerge. Harold, my father, maintained a complicated balance in our family dynamics. A successful businessman who built our company into a regional powerhouse, he possessed natural leadership abilities but surrendered much of his personal authority to Diana at home. He avoided direct confrontation with her, preferring to influence situations subtly or address issues when she was absent. Though he clearly supported my career and life choices, he rarely contradicted Diana openly when she favored Jason. Family gatherings became exercises in tension management. Sunday dinners featured Diana praising Jason's latest business idea while questioning my company decisions. My father would change subjects when conversations grew heated while Sarah squeezed my hand under the table, silently encouraging patience. These dynamics created an underlying stress that followed us home afterward, requiring hours to decompress from what should have been simple family time. The real challenge began when Sarah and I decided to start a family. After a year of trying naturally, we consulted fertility specialists who discovered issues that would make conception difficult. Thus began an expensive, emotionally draining journey through various treatments. Each month brought new hope, followed by crushing disappointment. We spent thousands of dollars on procedures, medications, and consultations with specialists across the country. The stress took its toll on Sarah. The vibrant, confident woman I married gradually retreated into herself, becoming obsessed with fertility tracking diets and alternative treatments. She blamed herself, despite doctors explaining that our challenges were shared biology, not personal failure. Nights, once filled with conversation, now ended with Sarah crying silently beside me, both of us feeling increasingly helpless. I pushed myself harder at work, taking on additional projects to cover mounting medical bills. 12-hour days became normal as I expanded our business into new markets. My father noticed my exhaustion, but understood the financial pressure driving me. He quietly approved raises and bonuses that helped fund our next treatment attempts, never asking for details but offering silent support through his actions. During this difficult period, Jason unexpectedly began showing interest in Sarah's well-being. He started calling to check on her after appointments, bringing her favorite desserts when treatments failed. Initially, I appreciated his support, believing he had finally matured. Diana encouraged these interactions, suggesting Jason stay with Sarah when business trips took me away. "She needs family around her right now," Diana insisted. "Jason can keep her company, so she is not alone with her disappointment." My mother organized family dinners with increasing frequency, creating elaborate occasions that seemed designed to showcase Jason's attention toward Sarah. She would seat them next to each other, prompting Jason to share stories that made Sarah laugh for the first time in months. I noticed their inside jokes developing, but attributed it to innocent friendship forming through a difficult time. In retrospect, I was blind to what was happening right before my eyes, too exhausted from work and too relieved by Sarah's improved mood to question the changing dynamics. The news came on a rainy Tuesday morning. Sarah burst into our bedroom while I was dressing for work, pregnancy test in hand, tears streaming down her face. "It worked, Michael. We are going to have a baby," she exclaimed. I lifted her off the ground, spinning around our room, both of us laughing through tears. After calling my father, who responded with a choked "Congratulations, son," I phoned my mother. Her reaction was explosive, screaming with joy, immediately talking about baby showers and nursery colors. Within hours, Diana had organized an impromptu celebration at their house. Relatives and friends gathered that evening, champagne flowing for everyone except Sarah. I watched my wife accept congratulations, noticing something odd about her interaction with my brother. They barely spoke, avoiding eye contact, despite having become so close over recent months. More troubling was my realization that the pregnancy timing coincided with my 2-week business trip to oversee our company's expansion in Denver. At the time, I dismissed these thoughts as paranoia born from years of disappointment. As weeks passed, strange patterns emerged. Sarah refused my offers to accompany her to prenatal appointments, insisting it was unnecessary for early visits. "Save your time off for later when we start birthing classes," she explained. Diana suddenly became Sarah's shadow, accompanying her shopping to lunch, and mysteriously to those very doctor appointments I was discouraged from attending. Jason, who had virtually moved into our guest room during my Denver trip, continued visiting regularly, bringing pregnancy books and organic snacks recommended by his friend who just had a baby. Their previously warm relationship cooled visibly, interactions becoming stilted and formal when I was present. Sometimes I would enter rooms to find conversations abruptly halting, with Diana quickly changing the subject to nursery plans or baby names. One evening, returning early from a client meeting, I overheard Diana on our back porch speaking intensely on her phone. "We need to be smarter about this. He is already asking questions about the timing." When she saw me, she quickly ended the call, claiming she was discussing a surprise baby shower with her sister. That night I noticed Sarah and Diana exchanging meaningful glances during dinner, while Jason studied his plate, refusing to meet my eyes. The revelation came accidentally. Sarah had asked me to find her phone charger in her purse while she showered. As I searched, her phone lit up with a message from Jason. Diana says to delete these messages after reading. The appointment went well. Doctor confirmed everything is progressing normally. Remember the story about the fertility treatment working? My hands trembled as I unlocked her phone using the birthday code she never changed, scrolling through weeks of messages between them. That night, while Sarah slept, I discovered a hotel receipt in her jacket pocket from the Continental downtown, dated during my Denver trip. Further investigation of her email revealed prenatal appointments scheduled at a different practice than the one she had mentioned to me, with dates contradicting what she had shared. Unable to confront them without concrete proof, I contacted a private investigator recommended by our company's security consultant. Over the next 3 weeks, James collected evidence photographs of Jason and Sarah entering her doctor's office together. Diana meeting them afterward at a cafe, recordings of phone conversations where they discussed maintaining their secret. I installed small cameras in our living room and kitchen after consulting with the investigator about legality capturing conversations when I was supposedly at work. The final piece came when I gained access to Sarah's email through our shared computer. There, in black and white, was correspondence between her and my mother, discussing keeping Michael in the dark for everyone's benefit. Diana wrote, "This arrangement works for all of us. Jason gets to experience fatherhood without responsibility. You get the baby you wanted with someone who could actually get you pregnant, and Michael gets to be a father without knowing his shortcomings. Everyone wins if we stick to the plan." Another email from Diana stated, "Remember, this is for the happiness of our family. Michael can never know Jason is the father. We will raise this child together, as a family should." She detailed how they would handle the birth certificate, ensuring my name appeared as the father without raising suspicions. The clinical way they discussed deceiving me, the casual mention of my shortcomings, and the conspiracy between the 3 people I trusted most crushed something fundamental inside me. That night, alone in my car, parked outside our neighborhood, I broke down completely. Memories flashed through my mind, holding Sarah during failed pregnancy tests, working overtime to afford treatments, thanking Jason for being there for my wife when I could not. Each recollection now poisoned with the knowledge that they had been laughing at me, planning together how to pass another man's child, my own brother's child, as mine. The betrayal cut so deeply I could barely breathe. For 2 more weeks, I maintained a facade of ignorance, secretly meeting with divorce attorneys and gathering financial records. I transferred important documents to a separate location and prepared for the confrontation that would destroy my marriage and forever alter my family. Throughout this time, I avoided intimacy with Sarah, claiming work stress while watching her exchange worried glances with Diana during family dinners. My mother increasingly urged me to take better care of Sarah in her condition, each word now dripping with hidden meaning I could finally perceive. With my evidence organized and legal preparations complete, I finally approached my father. Harold had always been my anchor, practical, fair, and despite his deference to Diana, in many matters fundamentally decent. I invited him to lunch at a private club where we occasionally discussed business, ensuring we would not be interrupted or overheard. "Dad, I need to show you something, and it is going to hurt." I began sliding a folder across the table. "Before you open that, I want you to know I have verified everything multiple times. This is not a mistake or misunderstanding." I watched his face transform as he reviewed the evidence: photographs, transcripts, emails printed with dates and verification markers. His complexion paled, hands trembling slightly as he reached the email where Diana orchestrated the entire deception. When he looked up, I saw something I had never witnessed before: my father's complete emotional collapse, followed by cold, calculated anger. "How long have you known?" he asked quietly. "About 6 weeks," I replied. I needed to be certain and prepared before saying anything. Harold nodded, straightening his posture. "You were right to come to me first. We will handle this together." In that moment, Our relationship transcended the father-son dynamic, becoming a partnership of two men united against betrayal. He asked practical questions about my legal preparations, nodding approval at my thoroughness. Before we parted, he gripped my shoulder tightly. "Son, I have never been more proud of your strength. Now let me support you through this." With my father's backing secured, I confronted Sarah that evening. I had asked her to stay home, claiming I wanted to discuss nursery plans. Instead, I carefully laid out copies of evidence on our dining table: photos, hotel receipts, transcripts of recorded conversations, and finally the damning emails. "I know everything," I stated flatly as she entered the room. "I know the baby is not mine. I know it is Jason's. And I know my mother helped orchestrate this entire deception." Her reaction confirmed everything. No denials, no explanations, just immediate collapse as she sank to the floor sobbing. Between gasps, confessions poured out how she and Jason had grown close during my absences, how one night led to another, and how Diana discovered the affair after noticing their behavior at a family dinner. "She said it was perfect timing," Sarah whispered. "That we could just pretend it was yours from the fertility treatments, that everyone would get what they wanted." The clinical calculation in her voice, as she recounted my mother's scheme, mirrored the emails, devoid of consideration for the devastation they would cause. "Diana convinced me it was the best solution," she continued. "She said you would never have to know, that you would be happy believing the baby was yours, that Jason was not ready for fatherhood, but you were, that this way nobody would get hurt." I laughed bitterly. Nobody except me, living a lie while raising my brother's child, being mocked behind my back by my entire family. Her pleas for forgiveness fell on deaf ears. I informed her that divorce papers would be delivered tomorrow, that she should pack essential items and leave immediately. When she begged for another chance, I played the recording of her and Diana discussing how to ensure I would never discover the truth. The sound of her own voice planning my deception silenced her appeals. 2 days later, my father arranged a family meeting at his office, neutral territory with privacy. Diana arrived confident and cheerful, Jason nervous but present. Neither expected the ambush awaiting them. Harold locked the door, disabled his phone, and gestured for me to begin. I projected the evidence onto the conference room wall. Photographs, transcripts, emails appearing in devastating sequence. Diana's face transformed from confusion to horror to calculated defense. Jason simply crumpled, unable to look at me. "You disgust me," I told them calmly. "Not just for what you did, but for how long you plan to maintain this lie. For how easily you justified destroying me for your convenience." Diana recovered quickly, shifting to the offensive. "We did this for the family," she insisted. "For a child who deserves a stable home. Jason is not ready to be a father, but you are. We were protecting you from more disappointment." My father, silent until this point, stood abruptly. "Enough, Diana." His voice carried an authority I had never heard before. "You were not protecting anyone but yourself and your precious Jason. You were willing to let our son raise his brother's child without his knowledge or consent. There is no justification for that level of betrayal." I announced my divorce proceedings, explaining that Sarah had already moved out, and acknowledged the paternity deception in writing to my attorney. Then came my father's bombshell. "Jason, effective immediately, your position as consultant to the company is terminated. Your monthly allowance ends today. The condo in your name will be sold." Jason began to protest, but Harold continued. "Diana, I have instructed our attorney to remove your access to our joint accounts and business holdings. Your credit cards have been frozen except for one, with a limited balance for necessities." My mother's shock was absolute. "You cannot do this. Everything we built was together." "Actually, I can," my father replied calmly. "The prenuptial agreement you signed includes a fidelity clause that extends to actions causing severe family harm. Our attorneys believe orchestrating this deception qualifies. You get your personal property and a settlement. Nothing more." The family I had known imploded in that conference room. Jason finally spoke, offering pathetic excuses about loneliness and connection with Sarah, as if their feelings justified their actions. Diana alternated between threats and tearful appeals to family unity. My father and I stood firm, presenting a united front against their manipulation. As news spread through extended family and close friends, opinions divided predictably. Diana's sisters rallied around her, claiming I was overreacting to a complicated situation. My father's brothers supported us unequivocally, several cutting contact with Diana entirely. Business associates awkwardly navigated the tension, some suggesting private matters should remain private, while others commended my father's decisive response to such betrayal. Various family friends attempted reconciliation, organizing dinners where they hoped to broker peace. One particularly persistent couple, the Andersons, invited all of us to their lake house, claiming healing happens best away from home. We declined politely, but firmly explaining that some betrayals cannot be smoothed over with pleasant surroundings and forced conversation. The community pressure to work things out for the baby's sake intensified as Sarah's pregnancy progressed, but we remained resolved in our position. Church members approached me after services offering well-meaning but misguided advice about forgiveness and family obligations. I listened politely, but maintained boundaries, explaining that forgiveness does not require resuming relationships with those who showed no genuine remorse. Some understood. Others labeled me uncharitable. Through it all, my father stood beside me, weathering the social fallout with the same dignity he brought to business challenges. Throughout this painful period, we maintained professional composure at work, ensuring the company continued operating successfully, despite the personal chaos. Employees inevitably heard rumors, but Harold addressed the situation directly in a management meeting, stating simply that family changes would not impact operations and requesting privacy. His straightforward approach earned respect and minimized gossip, allowing us to focus on business despite our personal pain. The legal consequences unfolded swiftly, largely due to the overwhelming evidence we had gathered. My divorce finalized in record time, with the judge viewing the paternity deception as egregious bad faith. Sarah received no alimony and was ordered to pay a portion of my legal fees. DNA testing confirmed what we already knew. Jason was indeed the biological father of the child Sarah carried. Financial settlements forced Jason to finally grow up. With his allowance cut off and his position at the company terminated, he reluctantly took a job selling cars at a local dealership. He moved to a modest apartment across town, occasionally attempting to contact me through mutual friends. Each time I declined engagement, maintaining the boundary my therapist had helped establish. No contact until genuine accountability occurs. Diana faced the harshest social consequences. Accustomed to leading charity committees and hosting prestigious gatherings, she found herself gradually excluded from upper social circles that valued loyalty and integrity. Former friends suddenly had scheduling conflicts when she called. Country club acquaintances engaged in polite but brief conversations before finding reasons to move along. Eventually, she relocated to Florida, where her sister lived, claiming she needed a fresh start with supportive people. Sarah endured public humiliation when the reason for our divorce became known. Her marketing firm, concerned about reputation by association, transferred her to a subsidiary in another state. She delivered a healthy boy 3 months after our divorce finalized, with Jason listed as the father on the birth certificate. According to mutual friends, she struggled with the consequences of her actions, expressing regret not for the affair itself, but for agreeing to the deception my mother engineered. The child, innocent in this entire situation, became the subject of complicated emotions. Though I had initially wanted nothing to do with the baby, I established a trust fund anonymously through my attorney. I could not punish a child for adults' terrible decisions. However, I maintained firm boundaries, declining Sarah's eventual request that I meet him. He has a father, I wrote in response. Jason needs to fulfill that role without confusion. My healing process began with professional help. Weekly sessions with Dr. Winters, a psychologist specializing in betrayal trauma, provided crucial tools for processing my emotions. Initially, rage dominated my therapy sessions. Anger at being manipulated, at the calculated deception, at having my reproductive challenges weaponized against me. Gradually, this gave way to grief for the marriage and family I thought I had. Eventually, I developed strategies for moving forward without letting bitterness define me. Throughout this journey, my relationship with my father transformed into something stronger and deeper than before. Harold, who had always maintained emotional reserve, began sharing more of himself, his own disappointments, dreams, and regrets. We expanded the business together, developing new divisions that reflected our shared vision. Weekend fishing trips became sacred rituals where conversation flowed freely, creating bonds that neither of us had experienced previously. "I failed you by allowing Diana to favor Jason all those years," he confessed during one such trip. "I thought staying quiet kept the peace, but it just emboldened her controlling nature." "You are making up for it now," I assured him. "Some fathers would have tried forcing reconciliation for appearance's sake." Harold shook his head firmly. "Family means standing for truth, not pretending betrayal never happened." Focusing on career advancement provided healthy distraction during my darkest moments. I developed a specialized division within our construction company, focusing on sustainable commercial buildings, winning several prestigious contracts that expanded our reputation nationally. Work provided structure when my personal life felt chaotic, and achievement offered confidence when betrayal had shaken my self-worth. Gradually, I began rebuilding a social life independent of my previous marriage. Thomas, my friend, whose wedding introduced me to Sarah, remained loyal throughout the ordeal. He and his wife, Emma, included me in dinner parties, outdoor activities, and eventually introduced me to new people who knew nothing of my past. Through their circle, I met Allison, a pediatric physical therapist, whose genuine kindness and straightforward nature provided refreshing contrast to the manipulation I had experienced. Our friendship evolved slowly into cautious dating. Unlike Sarah, who had pursued me aggressively, Allison allowed relationship development at a comfortable pace. She listened without judgment when I eventually shared my full story, offering neither toxic positivity nor pity, just understanding and presence. Her own experience with a dishonest partner created common ground that helped us both approach trust with healthy caution. 6 months into dating, Allison faced a career opportunity in Seattle. Rather than making demands or ultimatums, she presented the situation, honestly expressing desire to continue our relationship, but respecting my established life. This transparency, so different from the deception I had endured, helped me recognize her genuine character. We began discussing possibilities for our future, considering various arrangements that respected both our career investments. Meanwhile, the construction company flourished under joint leadership with my father. We expanded into 3 new states, establishing our brand as industry leaders in both traditional and sustainable building practices. Harold gradually transferred more authority to me, focusing on mentorship rather than daily operations. Our professional success, built on genuine partnership and mutual respect, stood in stark contrast to the family dysfunction I had escaped. Looking back now, 2 years since discovering the betrayal, I recognize that losing my marriage and half my family ultimately freed me from toxic relationships I might have tolerated indefinitely. The pain forced growth I might otherwise have avoided. Though I would never choose such betrayal, I acknowledge that surviving it revealed strengths I never knew I possessed. The most profound lesson came from my father, who demonstrated that it is never too late to establish boundaries and demand respect. At 63, Harold completely restructured his marriage and family relationships, choosing integrity over comfort. "Character shows in crisis," he told me recently. "I regret not showing mine sooner, but I am grateful for the chance to model it now." For anyone facing similar betrayal, remember this: your worth is not determined by how others treat you, and family loyalty should never require sacrificing your dignity. Sometimes rebuilding means leaving behind what was broken and creating something entirely new. The family you choose can prove stronger than the family you were born into. Have you ever had to make a difficult choice between toxic relationships and your own well-being? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, like this video. If it resonated with you, subscribe for more real-life stories and share with Bayalan, someone who might need to hear that standing up for yourself is not selfish. It is necessary. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I truly hope it helps someone feel less alone in their own struggles.